Good morning, everybody. How are you? Happy Thursday. It's so good to be able to spend time with all of you and keep on talking about data science. So, thank you so much for joining me. I really hope that you're doing well. Hope that your families are good and safe in whatever part of the world that you're tuning in from. I'm personally off to a good day. It's a beautiful day out where I live, gorgeous weather. So, I've been doing a lot of work this morning and I'm going to be spending some time with you. I have a couple of special things planned that I want to share out. And then I'm going to just take the rest of the day off. I'm going to go play some golf after this. So really looking forward to spending some time with you and then just going to go out and enjoy the rest of my day, enjoy the beautiful weather that's out there. So thank you so much for joining. I know that there's a lot of new people joining us. So please, we always like to start off with our global roll call, where we ask people to introduce themselves, let us know your city, state, province, country, all those good things, just to kind of introduce yourself to the community. Let us know a little bit about you. And that way we also keep the chat inclusive and you can participate without having to have any, big questions or things along those lines. But for today, I have I want to do our global roll call. I want to answer any questions that we may initially have, but I want to do a little something different today. I want to have a little bit of a different discussion. We're going to kick off we're going to have a little bit of an instructional today, like a mini instructional, because there's a couple of things I want to clear up as far as different, maybe not misconceptions, but different approaches to how you may be doing data science out there in the real world and how it might be different than what you think it is. So looking forward to having that discussion with all of you and seeing where that discussion takes us. But again, if you're just joining us, please let me know your city, state, country, province. Just introduce yourself. Just let us know where you're from. And keep on building our community here of global data science. You know, what's funny now is that when I first started, it was easy to get people from new countries as far as like, oh, we've never had somebody visit us from that country before. But nowadays, we've had so many different visitors, so much growth, that it's hard to find situations where somebody's introducing themselves from a particular country for the very first time. So I'm always kind of curious to see if we are going to continue to get people from unique countries. But, just let us know where you're from and go from there. So already in the chat, I think it's all regulars today so far. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all the continued support from the people who keep on coming back. So Yassine, hello sir Yassine from Tangier, Morocco. Yassine, you're always so great at, one, your support, really appreciate it, and two, and how you introduce yourself. So thank you so much for that, Yassine. Hope that you're doing well out there. Sarvesh, our good friend Sarvesh keeps on coming back. Really appreciate that. Good morning to you, Dennis. Good morning to you too, Sarvesh. Hope you're doing well. Although I think it's maybe evening for you. But my morning is off to a good start. It's a beautiful, beautiful day out here. If you guys have never lived in the desert, to me, there is no better time period than right now of the year when you live in the desert, like October, November, December. It's just so gorgeous out here, so beautiful out here. So yeah, the day's off to, the morning's off to a good start. So thank you, Sarvesh. Like I said, hope you're doing well also. Muhammad, our good friend Muhammad. Hey Dennis, today I planned my day keeping your stream in mind, and here I am. Well, we should all be doing that. I also keep my stream in mind. No, you guys are a big part of my day. You guys are a big part as far as, the scheduling I keep and the way I schedule my calls. I have my calendars online connected to my client discussions so that clients know when I'm available, when I'm not available, all based around this stream. So yeah, it's I'm glad you planned your day around it, because I do the same. Rex, Our good friend Rex, good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful and sunny here in New York City. I'm sure it is, Rex. I hope that you get out, you have the time to get out there and enjoy that. Osama, our good friend Osama from Satat says, hello, sir. Hope everything is going well. Everything is going really well. You know, actually, Osama, you're reminding me that I did want to mention also, as many of you know, I am on a quest to try to do 100 days of streaming all in a row. It's been very interesting. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot in the channel. And today is stream number 91. So we are in our last 10 streams in order to be able to say that I did 100 streams in a row. So today is number 91. So only 10 more to go, which is incredible because when I first started, it seemed like such a large number, 100. So yeah, everything is going well. It's going to keep on going well. So thanks so much for asking, Osama. Hi, I'm Sakil from Bloemfontein. I hope I'm saying that right. Bloemfontein, Free State in South Africa. Very cool. Welcome, Sakil. I think it's your first time. So welcome. Glad you're here. Anything we can help you with, please let me know. We're gonna have a little bit of a different session today, so I think you're attending at a good time. I hope I'm saying this right. Is it Kalechi? Kalechi, a data science graduate student at City University of New York Grad Center in New York. Nice, very welcome. Always good to have students around. I'm telling you, I gotta start charging these. I gotta start charging a couple of companies and a couple of universities because I think I'm teaching their students and their employees a lot. I didn't highlight. Sorry, but I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Kalechi. Let me know. But I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Casual Economist says, all my meetings are scheduled during your live. I'm skipping today's meeting. Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Hope you don't get into trouble. But I appreciate that you're attending. Casual Economist, I still remember your first day that you came. You were like, what's all this? And then you just kept on coming back. So I really appreciate you. Denelson, our good friend from LA, says, good morning, everyone. Hey, Denelson, how are you? Hope you're doing well. I think LA is probably beautiful right now. Rex says I'm going to miss these hangout sessions. No, Rex, hold on a second. Let's pump the brakes here, guys. Just because I finish 100 sessions does not mean that these streams are going to finish. No, Rex. Sorry, I apologize if I gave everybody that impression. Now, I might reconsider the scheduling of them. Because, as I've mentioned, they do take a lot out of me. I do want to keep bringing you guys different content. So that's going to require a little bit more planning on my part. So maybe take a little bit more. There might be more days in between streams. I have, there's a ton of pre-recorded content that I still want to do. I mean, my idea list is like 100 things long. So we're still going to be doing live streams, maybe just on a different schedule. So maybe just like, Thursdays through Sundays or Thursdays through Mondays or something like that. My analytics tell me that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are usually my slowest days. So, maybe I'll do something different on those days. So no, Rex, I mean, I love the live streams. I love spending time with you guys. And honestly, this is my preferred format. Some of you have probably noticed that I will take these streams and I will make clips out of them, and then that will be my pre-recorded content. I prefer this a lot more than just sitting here and talking, into like a recording, right? So yeah, no, we'll still have these, and plus we'll still have the Sunday tutorials, right? I mean, the Sunday tutorial we're doing now is going to take us well beyond 100 streams, right? So yeah, no, we're going to keep on doing this, just, different schedule, different ways for me to allocate my time, different ways for me to be able to bring you guys content. Like here, I'll tell you something. I did something that I'm waiting for a result on. So, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm going to put out positive energy into the universe. But here's something I'm going to do, guys. I'm sure many of you guys have heard about the Consumer Electronics Expo, right? It's a huge expo that always happens at the beginning of the year. And it, always has like the newest TVs and the newest computers, and they have robots, and like it's a really cool expo. And there's always news that comes out of it, right? There's always some big splash. Samsung will introduce a new phone, or whatever the case may be. So it's not open to the public. It's an industry only event, right? You have to work for one of these large companies to be able to go to Expo. But I now qualify as a media applicant, because of the subs and the content that I do. I qualify under one of their data, social media influencer programs, or whatever you want to call it. So I applied for one of their press passes, and I don't see any reason why that wouldn't get approved. So maybe I'll go to that, and I'll be doing live streams from the floor of the conference. Obviously I'm going to focus on the AI companies, the automation companies, the self-driving car companies, and maybe I'll do interviews from the floor there, right? So, different things could be coming up, right? Maybe I'll be doing more spontaneous live streams where not everything will be scheduled. I'll just start up the stream whenever I feel like it, right? So we'll see. We'll still keep meeting, Rex. Don't you worry. But just different things that I have coming up. Different things. Okay, so Kalichi says, yes, I'm pronouncing it. Great. Nice to see you here. We'll continue to meet. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely, Rex. Yeah, just different ways of delivering content. Marco and OC, we always ask people to introduce themselves. So let us know your city, state, country, province. Congratulations on 50K. Thank you so much. Yeah. But it's growing quickly, right? We're not stopping till we get to 100K. So maybe I'll get there by the end of the year. Who knows? Good afternoon, Dennis and everyone. I hope we all are doing great. Michael, what an introduction, Michael. Thanks so much, Michael, our good friend from Lagos. Yeah, I think everyone is doing great. Thank you so much. Sometimes I do get concerned with the state of the world. I know that there's a lot of things going on, and I have viewers all over the world. So sometimes I do wonder that if everyone is doing good, but it seems like everyone is doing great right now. So thanks for asking, Michael. Really appreciate you doing that. Casual Economist says, I subbed at 1K. Now you got media passes. This is awesome. Yeah, thanks so much. Casual Economist. Yeah, I guess you have been there since 1K. This is crazy. I'll tell you something else along those same lines. I'm not gonna mention them because, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want to give them any publicity. But when I first grew, for those of you who don't know, the first platform that I really grew on was actually Instagram. I got to like 10,000 subscriptions in Instagram in like a week when something I posted went viral. And I wasn't very big on YouTube then, like 100 followers on YouTube. But I could see the growth, right? And also I knew my own talent, I know that, I have experience in data science. And I wrote to a conference and that was coming up, and I said, hey, I'd like to, I can't remember if I applied for a speaking slot or if I applied for a media pass. I think I applied for a media pass. And I said, hey, I'm an experienced data scientist. Here's a little bit of my resume here. And by the way, I'm building up this social media following. I'm on a good trajectory. Here's my numbers. Can you send me a press pass? I think it was a press pass that I was asking. And they wrote back and they politely but firmly told me to go fuck myself. They said I wasn't big enough. So I'm going to do something with that in the coming year. I haven't quite thought it out yet. I planned it. But casual economist, it hasn't always been this way. I was very, very small. But yeah, so, we'll see if the CES press pass comes through. I'm putting it out to the world that I think I qualify. I read their instructions. I filled out their application. I'm waiting to hear back. But there have been conferences that have told me to go fuck myself because I was too small, believe it or not. And along those same lines, another thing that maybe some of you guys don't realize, because, even if you have been with me for a while, is that when I started this, I did a lot of research. And I even did like test videos. And I would send test videos to my friends. And I tried different cameras and like different angles, different lighting, and different audio. I had a completely different audio setup. And some of those test videos are horrendous. They are embarrassingly bad. They are terrible videos. But I sent it out to my friends and my family. And I said, hey, I'm kind of going to do this YouTube thing. What do you think? And, some people gave me feedback. Others didn't, right? You kind of find out who your friends really are, right? So I was thinking for 100K, I might release some of those videos because they are terrible. They are embarrassingly bad. But this all didn't happen overnight. Like I researched all this stuff, right? Like I did work into putting all this together. So yeah, I appreciate the long-term supporters. And I might do something like that for 100K. I might, release some of those or talk more about the setup and how all of this came to be. But Casual Economist, coming back to your point, appreciate you're here. You've been here since 1K and yeah, couple new followers since then. Khalif, our good friend Khalif says, good evening, everyone. Hello, sir. Good evening to you too, Khalif. Hope you're doing well. I believe that you're in India. I believe that's the case. But hope you're doing well in your part of the world. But yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks to everyone for being here. Really appreciate the support, guys. These streams really can't be a whole lot without you guys. So really appreciate it. Okay. So I have a tutorial in mind for today that I want to run us through. And I'm going to open up the classroom view. I think most of you are on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, feel free to switch over to YouTube or Twitch, one of the ones that gives you that widescreen view. But let's do a special tutorial today. Let me bring up my classroom camera. Okay, I think that's visible. If not, let me know. I can zoom in, make it bigger. But I started off by, well, actually, let me go ahead and make that. Okay, so okay, yeah, Rex says more zoom. Okay, Rex, I think that should be better. Let me know. You guys see that okay? Give me some feedback in the chat there, guys. Okay, Rex says better, good. So I've been carrying this tutorial in my brain for a little while, and I've been wanting to share it out with all of you. And I decided to do this yesterday after a conversation with one of my mods, where we were talking about different ways to pick a model and the model results and things along those lines. Okay. And in some cases, you have heard me refer to before how the business will help you determine what the good models are. And I think I haven't done a good enough job of illustrating that to you, because I've always said, well, I don't want to talk about this, I don't want to talk about that. But I thought about it some more. And I want to share a little bit more of a concrete example with all of you using an actual business case and how that will influence the models that you look at. So I want you to keep this image in mind, the simple image that I have up on the screen, because one of the funny sayings that I have found helpful in data science talks about the lady at the circus who walks across the high wire. They go up and and they walk the high wire, over the crowd, over the three rings of the circus and all that, right? And the saying, and the saying here is in the US, I don't know if it's global, but the saying is, the skill is not in walking the high wire. The skill is in faking the fall. Because somebody who works the circus like that, they've been walking that high wire since they were a small child, right? They can walk across the high wire, run, jump. They've been doing it forever. They haven't fallen in decades, not just years, decades, right? So there's no skill in that. That's not what makes the audience gasp, right? The skill is in being able to control the body and do things that you think people will make people think you're gonna fall, but you're in complete control at all times, right? You know how, like, when they first get on they have like the high wires where they have to walk a little wire to get up to the main platform, and they'll be walking that little wire and they'll fake fall, and in the audience, it's all fake, right? And that's where the skill is. In other words, and how it applies to data science, is that the skill is not in seeking perfection. The skill is in seeking what you ultimately need. The high wire girl, the lady at the circus, she doesn't need perfection. She's had perfection for decades. She's been walking the high wire since she was a child. What she needs is the ability to make the audience gasp, because that's what serves the audience. And that's what we do, right? We as data scientists also serve the audience. Okay? So I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to keep that in mind, because it's really a key concept. And I know it's a little bit abstract, but I'm going to try to give you some numbers here. All right, so let's talk about this. This is a little confusion matrix, right? This is just a quick little confusion matrix that I cooked up, right? So as an exercise, and this is audience participation time, right? So give me some feedback in the chat here, right? What are the boxes for my confusion matrix? Tell me where I should be putting my true positives, my true negatives, my false positives, my false negatives. Let me know. Where should they go? Give me the color or the quadrant or whatever else, right? What should my confusion matrix look like? Just give me the labels. Give me the labels for now. Right? I got 4 different quadrants. What am I doing here, guys? And if you want me to label the axes too, I'm willing to do that. Just tell me what labels you want to see. But tell me what a confusion matrix should look like. Okay, so 2 people are saying that this here is my true positives. Rex says, isn't there a standard format for this matrix? Yeah, so give it to me, Rex. What is it? Okay, so Dendelson says true positive and true negative on the yellow and light green. Okay. Okay. Yep, Joseph says true positive top left. Yep, we got that one. Yassine says 1.2 is true negatives. Yep, we got that. So Yassine says 2.1 is false positives. Does anybody agree with Yassine? Actually, no. Yassine, are you giving me X and Y coordinates or Y and X? I think you're giving me Y and X. Joseph says false negatives, upper right pink. All right. Okay. Osama says we need to know where is the actual and predictive axis. Okay, give it to me. Give it to me. 2.1 is false positives according to Khalif. Okay. Yeah, if you guys want me to label anything else, give it to me. This is healthy for us to go through this, yeah? What else? Anybody else wanna? Okay, Danielson says false positives and false negatives on the pink and purple. Okay, so Danielson is saying false. Okay, so Dennison is saying that this should be false positives, right? But Joseph said it's false negatives. Okay, guys, so we have a conflict there. What do you guys think? Okay, so Joseph is proposing axes, right? So he's gonna say that your y-axis. Wait. Y-axis is your actual, and then we're gonna have our predicted. All right, so let me get this again, Joseph. You're saying that your y-axis is your actual. Let me get us some more room over. All right, so Joseph wants to put actual over here and predicted across the top. Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay, guys, so yeah, y-axis, okay. All right, guys, so we have some axis labels. Now what do you guys think? We still have a conflict here, right? Who agrees with this being false negatives? Give me a 1 in the chat if you agree, or a 0 if you want to change it. All right, so Dennison is not on board with this being false negatives. Khalif, Sarvesh, and Joseph all say it's false negative up here. Anybody else want to vote in that? All right. Osama, how do you feel about this being false negatives? I'm sorry, I don't understand the coordinates because I think you guys are giving y and x, not x and y. Like Osama and Yassine, you've given the coordinates. Are you on board with this being false negative, the pink box that I have highlighted? And actually, just to kind of help us out, we should probably also add a couple of other, we actually need 2 more labels. Okay, so Yassine is okay with that being a false negative. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're on board with that. Just to clarify this, to make it clearer for everybody, what we actually also need is we need a classifier, right? So we're gonna say that that's our ones, that's our zeros, and then in turn, this is also our ones, and then this is also our zeros, right? I think that might clear it up for you a little bit, Denelson, or for anybody else who's okay, we have another conflict. So Osama also thinks these are false positives, right? Osama, you're saying that this should be a false positive. Anybody else? I mean, I have to review it for myself here. I have them in my own determination. Okay, so if that's a true positive, and that's also, and that should be here, actually 0. That's a false. 0, 0. Yeah, if it's an actual of 1, predicted of 0, then actual. Yeah, I think we got the right diagram up now. Osama, do you want to look at your answer again? Because Osama, I think you're saying this is false positive. But for me, after I added the 1s and the 0s for the classes, I think we have the right chart up. So while we're waiting for Osama's answer, all right? Now, second step, audience participation. What are your desired values for these? Usually these values are going to be proportions, right? So what are the desired proportions that you want for each of these? Give me values that you would like to see. Or give me values you got from your previous algorithms or, something else, right? What are your desired states for all of these? So it can be something you experienced or something you're making up, whatever you'd like it to be. What do you guys think? What are some good values here? Okay, so it sounds like Osama's on board, pink one being false negative. Okay. Yeah, I think we have the right chart up, right? Rex says, wouldn't desired values depend on the use case? Yeah, sure. That's a big part of it. But let's toss some numbers out there. What do you guys think? Yassine says, I think it depends. Okay. Okay. All right, so let me ask you this. For those of you that are in school, what was the requirement of the last time you were asked to submit a confusion matrix or an algorithm and the corresponding results? What were you asked to submit? What did the assignment require of you? Sarvesh is saying false negative and false positive should be ideally 0. Okay. So let's put that down. Okay. Anybody else wanna suggest for some of these? In general, the wanted is for the diagonal to be a lot bigger. Okay, well, give me some proportions. Belief said it was accuracy. Okay. So what kind of accuracy, Khalif? What was the required or the desired measure? Well, I take that back. The measure was accuracy, but what was the value they were looking for? Anybody else want to volunteer that number? Or the true positive, true negatives? Or are we just going to say as big as possible? Uh, Habiba Murtaza says yes. Hey, welcome. We asked people to introduce themselves. Just let us know your city, state, province, country. Yassine says ideally 100% of observations should be distributed along the diagonal. More precisely, accuracy should be ideally 100%. Yeah, okay. Sure. So we're going to say that true positive, ideally, would be 1.0, right? And your true negatives are 1.0, right? Everybody on board? Give me on board with that. Give me a 1 in the chat if you agree with the chart that's up on the screen. And give me a 0 if you want to make any changes. What do you guys think? Sarvesh, you're not on board with this? What changes would you like to have? 100%, but the overfitting problem. Okay. Denelson says, from what I was taught, it is okay to have non-zeros at the FN and FP because a model can overfit. Okay. Sum of diagonals should be 0 if we're talking in terms of fractions. Okay, well then give me some values. What values would you like to see? So Denelson says, from what I was taught, it's okay to have non-zeros. At model can overfit 100%, but there's an overfitting. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about that. So is there an overfitting problem? Maybe. Maybe not. question for you guys. Can you think of a business scenario or, just like a real world scenario where overfitting is not a problem? Can somebody come up with a business scenario out there where overfitting is not a problem? Let me state that another way. Can you think of a scenario where you're kind of okay if the model is overfit? Like, you're kind of okay if that's a risk? Yeah, Yassine hit it right away, right? Yassine, that's exactly the example I have in mind. Self-driving cars, guys, right? A false positive, false negative could mean like serious harm, right? You kind of want those models to be perfect, right? So, the underlying message there is be careful about being alarmed about overfitting or any of these results, right? Because it all depends on the use case. It all depends on how you look at them. Do you want like any sort of significant false negative or false positive rates in your self-driving cars? I don't. Right? So think about that, guys. It's easy to be dogmatic and say, oh, well, I was taught this, or the numbers are telling me this. But there's a real world impact there, right? And that's really kind of why I wanted to do this little tutorial, was, to talk about that, because false negatives and false positives are important. Now, self-driving cars is a great example because I think this is kind of like where they fail, right? Like, at some point in the future, in the near future, there's going to be like more and more court cases around the liability behind self-driving cars. And stuff like this will be this is what the courts are going to be looking at and saying, okay, well, you released a car or an algorithm with a false negative rate or a false positive rate of X. You can translate that to the number of miles that have been driven or can be projected to be driven, and that can give you an idea of like what can go wrong, right? Yassine also says medical surgery. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios, right? Where you can come up with and say, should I be panicked if it's overfit? No. Kind of want perfection out of this algorithm, right? And if you can't achieve that perfection, or if the overfit makes you uncomfortable, then maybe it's not an algorithm that should be pursued, right? Hey Mike, welcome. I think it's your first time in the chat. Welcome. I see you on YouTube. We always ask people, let us know their city, state, province, country. But if you want to introduce yourself, we'd appreciate that. So I think that Yassine has hit on two fantastic examples, right? So let's pump the brakes sometimes on being dogmatic and saying, oh my gosh, overfit, right? It all depends. It depends on what you're going after. It depends on the use case, right? So that's why we have to make ourselves, familiar enough with the business in order to be able to guide clients and guide results. Because again, I'm giving you an example here where you kind of want that perfection. And most of your school assignments want that perfection, right? Your grade or your success is determined on, did you achieve the accuracy level that was required, right? The professor wanted to see 95% accuracy. So you can't turn in the assignment until you do that. Right? But that's not always real life. That's not always real life. Okay. So I want to give you a real life example because, you're seeing here, and I hope you guys have come up with your own scenarios of where it's okay if you have these very, very low false positive and false negative rates. It doesn't always mean that fit is a negative result or an undesirable result. But I'm going to give you a different take on this using a real world example from a contract that I did. This has been a few years now. It was a while back. Okay. So, I think I'll just say it out instead of writing it down because it would take me a while to write it down. So I'm going to give you guys an example, a real world example. So in the United States, we have what are known as toll-free numbers. They're numbers that you as a company can own, that anybody in the country can call in, and it doesn't cost them anything to call you. Right? They're known as toll-free numbers or 1-800 numbers or things along those lines. Right? I'm sure they must exist in other countries. Maybe they're just not called 800 numbers. But basically, they're phone numbers where I can call as a customer. I can call the company. It doesn't cost me anything. And then the company is paying those charges. The company is paying for that phone call. Okay. Sarvesh, I see your question. We're going to get back to it. You're asking a good question. I promise you we're going to get back to it. So there's these companies that own these 1-800 numbers. And I was working for a company that owns a lot of these 800 numbers. They owned multiple millions of these 1-800 numbers. And their business model is that they would go out and they would buy these old 1-800 phone numbers, that maybe had fallen out of use. If I'm a company, I used to have a 1-800 number and then I go bankrupt, that 1-800 number I no longer own. But people are still calling it. Maybe it's on an old business card or on the back of a credit card or on my old website. People still call those numbers, right? So they would go out and they would buy up these 1-800 numbers. And that way, when those calls came in on these old phone lines, they could pitch those clients and say, hey, the company you're looking for no longer exists, but can I interest you in the new car insurance quote or something? That was their entire business model. They would still have all of these incoming phone calls based on these old 1-800 numbers that, basically nobody was using. So, believe it or not, there's companies out there, for whatever reason, will call up these 1-800 numbers and they will pretend that they're a customer, but they're not. It's just like a fake phone call where that phone call will just hold the line. Their whole purpose is to just not hang up. And then that way, it runs up the bill on the other company. In theory, you could have a financial effect on that company if you had enough of these calling robots to run up these phone calls, right? Because you're running up their financial bills, essentially, right? Why companies will do that, will seek to do that, can be speculation, but there are companies out there that do that. Or hacking groups or whatever, I don't know. But that was one of the problems that I came in to solve for this company. Because if you can predict that an incoming phone call is one of those calls that's going to run up your line, that's a good thing, right? You've saved yourself money by being able to do that. If you can predict and say, oh, that's a call that's not a real person, it's just going to hold my line, it's just going to run up my bills, then you've saved the company some money, right? So, from my perspective, that's a pretty standard contract for a consultant like me, right? Like I've done a million of those types of engagements with clients, right? Where they have very specific problems to solve, right? So now let me start writing some things, right? So here's basically where I'm at. All right, so that's my basic problem statement, yeah? I'm trying to predict the phone call. So from a client management perspective, I want to focus on the mistakes, right? So that's the first mistake, right? The second mistake is allowing All right. So this is the way I saw the problem. Give me a 1 in the chat if you agree, or give me a 0 if you don't agree. But these are basically the two mistakes I can make from my algorithm. Agree, disagree. Give me a 1 if you agree, 0 if you disagree. All right, cool. So a couple of 1s in the chat there, right? So it looks like you guys are on board with this, right? Okay. So here's where it gets interesting, right? Wait, hold on a sec. I'm gonna justify all of these because it looks funny when it's centered. All right. All right. Do you guys agree with this, right? I can work with my client. You know, I had full access to their database, right? So I can go look up the average sale of what we make from each customer, right? And then I can also look up the cost of a phone call for these robot callers, because they're designed to hold the line for so many minutes and all this other stuff, right? And then they have their own other evasive maneuvers. I don't want to get into that, but they have their own evasive maneuvers on both sides, right? But I can assign dollar values to those, right? So now I know what those mistakes cost, right? I can also let me think about this. And I'm trying to think back of how I did this in the real world. No, this is wrong. Probabilities from the false positive and false negative values. Right? Ah, Sarvesh. Sarvesh, you're the man. That's exactly where we're headed. Guys, Sarvesh is a couple steps ahead of us here. But that's exactly where we're headed, right? Because these are probabilities, right? What is the probability of me doing a false positive and false negative? That's what these values represent, right? And if you know that, and if you know the cost, the dollar value, isn't that like an expected value formula? Right? So if you know that, then you have all the elements of expected value, right? So that means that you can come up with an EV value for every single model, every single iteration of the model you produce. And that is serving the client best because you can assign the dollar values. Right? So that's where I want you guys to start thinking about this. Because here's what should be the final challenge, okay? If we take all of that together, and I just told you that what we really want to do is we want to optimize expected value. Right? Doesn't that kind of change your entire view, like your entire perspective on why you want to do a confusion matrix? it's no longer about the diagonal axis, right? A couple of you mentioned the diagonal axis, right? The true positive, true negative rates. But when you're serving the business in a real world problem like this, it's really more about the false positives and the false negatives and what they cost you, what that expected value is. It's no longer what your professor says it is. It's what the business says it is, and you can assign dollar values to them. So that's really where we're headed with this, right? So I don't think that this is a fair question for me to put in the chat. So let me just write this out. So this is where we started, right? We started here with people saying, well, it's all about the diagonal axis and we can't be at 0 on the other axis because that's overfitting, right? But in most scenarios, it's going to be this. This is most likely what you're really going to be asked to deliver. Because it's really what serves the business best. So now your final steps, your final determination for delivery is really not just going to be, oh, I produced a single confusion matrix and it's perfect. This will be your refined evaluation metric. And it's not the matrix, it's the expected value. And I can get you this expected value. And then the challenge there is you're going to have a lot of different models that are going to be within the same range, right? They'll be within a couple of pennies of each other or something like that. So how do you distinguish from there? Well, you still do care about accuracy. Accuracy still does matter, of course, right? So it's going to be, okay, here's the highest expected value models. They're all within 5 cents of each other, but this one particular model also gives you a little bit of a better accuracy, so that's the model we're recommending. Those are the real world metrics that you use in, day-to-day data science. So it's not about perfection. It's not about accuracy. It's not about overfitting. It's about what fits the business need best. So I hope that example with the phone calls helps to illustrate that. And it also helps to illustrate about how it should for most of you put an emphasis on the importance of those conversations with the business stakeholder. Because you wouldn't necessarily have all these answers on your own. You're going to have to seek help from those stakeholders, and that's okay, right? This is the role that they play in the process. You can't create models in a vacuum. You have to be able to know how to talk to these business people and ask the right questions to get the information you need. Very, very common need in the real world of data science. Okay. All right. I want to come back to Sarvesh's previous question because I promised him that I would. Um, but if we have the resources, wouldn't we always like our models to be 100% accurate during both train and test time? The keyword there is resources, right? Who says you have those resources? You may not always have them. And by resources, I mean, people, processing power, and time, right? You don't always have all the time in the world. When you're doing real world data science. I try to avoid putting myself in those situations, putting my teams in those situations. But there are times when you might say, okay, well, we can model for the next month, and then whatever is the best at the end of that month is what we have to go with. There are situations that, where that happens. You're up against cascading deadlines or something like that, right? Or you're up against a deployment deadline, right? So you're not always going to have those resources. You're going to have to be able to come up with those measures to say, okay, we know the model's not perfect, but then what is perfection in this scenario? How can we redefine perfection, right? Or for something like the example I just gave, right? This was me working as an independent contract, my own company. I don't work for free. So the client might look at this and say, you know what, this is great. And we're willing to stop here. We're willing to stop here because, maybe we can use you for the next month to improve this model by 20 cents, but your fees between now and then don't justify that 20 cents. So we're okay where we're at. And that's it, right? So in a way, like the EV kind of works against you too, right? Because they could also say, well, even if you could save us another X number of dollars, we still have to pay you, and it doesn't balance out. So we're happy with where we're at. That happens too, right? So it's kind of a give and take there, right? It's not the resources aren't always plentiful, right? The success is not always defined by 100% accuracy. That's just the way it is in the real world, right? So that's part of those business discussions. What does success mean for the individual, for the specific product that you're working on? What does success look like? It's not the same in all scenarios. It's not always 100%. It may just be, I just want my business to make less mistakes than we do. Less mistakes, not no mistakes, right? Some false positives and some false negatives are very expensive. So if you can reduce that just by like a couple percentage points, that might be success. You never know. But again, my whole point in this is to encourage all of you guys to think about this in different ways, right? You got to open your mind to that. You got to open your mind to these different metrics, these extra steps you're going to have to take, right? Confusion matrices don't come with expected value calculations. You're going to have to do that on your own, right? But that's data science in the trenches. All right, guys. So that's the message I wanted to get across. Let me know if there's questions in the chat. For all I know, you guys are confused and whatnot. But again, I'm trying to, kind of open your mind to other possibilities, right? The skill is not in walking the high wire. The skill is in faking the fall. Being able to adjust to what your client, what the immediate need actually is, right? That's how you actually define success for yourself as a data scientist, when you can shape the data and look at the results in that way. Like that's when you're doing data science, you know, like at a step up, right? All right. So those are the items I wanted to cover. Any other questions, you know, please let me know. Or, you know, maybe you want to think about it, come back to it later. Join our Discord. The link is in the chat. The link in the pinned comment in all of your chats. So let me know. You can keep in touch with everybody. Most people in this chat are also on that Discord. But really grateful for the time that we spent. Again, reach out with any questions, and please take care of yourselves and take care of your families. And I'll see you guys next time.